Welcome to another episode of Jim's Love and Garden. The next comment comes from DTCB67, talking about beetroot, and they were suggesting that you can twist to get the leaves off of beetroot. If you're going to eat the beetroot straight away, leave the leaves on it and then just chop it up as you're cooking it. But if you are going to store them or whatever, you're not going to use them straight away. The best thing to do is to remove the leaves, because they're losing moisture from the leaves, all the time. So the actual vegetable won't store as well. So you need to take the leaves off. There's two ways to take the leaves off. One is to cut it with a knife, or the other way is to twist them off. It is better, you are right, to twist them off, because if you cut them off with a knife, it can bleed a little bit, and if you twist them, you most certainly reduce that. So a little tip: if you're going to take the leaves off of beetroot, or it's exactly the same for chard or spinach or anything like that, rather than cutting the leaves off the plant, pull them off, because then you don't get any bleeding from the plant and you don't weaken the plant. But anything like kohlrabi, beetroot, chard, or perpetual spinach or anything like that, it's better to twist the leaves off rather than cutting them off with a knife, because then you don't get this bleeding from the plant. So good tip, DTCB67. Next comment comes from Brian Hubry, and he was talking about removing leaves from tomato plants, and it's a double-edged sword, meaning that it's got good things and bad things about it. If you remove the leaves from tomato plants, you are reducing the plant's ability to create sugars or the energy that the plant needs. Obviously, in the leaves, you have this process called photosynthesis, and this is where the plant changes water and carbon molecules into the sugars, the acids and the sugars that the plant needs as building blocks to grow itself. So if you are taking leaves off a tomato plant, you are reducing the plant's ability to do that. I completely understand where you're coming from, Brian. However, having said that, you've also got this other thing where if you've got too much or not enough airflow at the bottom of the plant, you are encouraging mildew and mould and fungus to grow down at the bottom. The other thing is as well is down at the bottom of the plant in a greenhouse, you get considerably less light anyway. So the majority of the photosynthesis will actually occur on the top sort of 2/3 of the plant. So if you do take the leaves out of the bottom of the plant, obviously not too many. As I've said, what you need to do is minimise how many you take off. Just take 1 or 2 leaves off each of the plants. The plant will continue to grow and create more leaves at the top anyway, where it's getting more light, so it'll be able to grow anyway, and photosynthesize further up the plant. So yes, you do. In the first instance, you weaken the plant slightly by taking the leaves off. However, the plant does grow more leaves further up. So it is beneficial to take the leaves off at the bottom, because you get a better airflow through the bottom of the plants, which is obviously avoiding things like blight and other fungal problems. But also, the plants will grow further leaves at the top anyway, so the leaves you take off the bottom are kind of replaced at the top, if you like. That's the way I like to look at it. So that's why I always take a few leaves off at the bottom, just to get the bottom clear, so you get a better airflow through the greenhouse. So that's kind of why. The next comment that comes from Brian, again, is exactly right. He said humidity in the greenhouse will actually prevent spider mite from coming in, and yes, you are dead right. With everything with gardening, and the same with most other things in life, it's a balancing act. You want some humidity in the greenhouse, for the plants, and also to prevent certain things like spider mite is a really good example. But secondly, you don't want too much moisture in the greenhouse, so you get condensation, and that's when you start to get fungal problems and stuff like that. So it's a balancing act. You want some humidity in your greenhouse, but you don't want too much, so you have problems from it. So yes, but you are right. You don't want a completely dry greenhouse. What you do want is some humidity in here, so the plants are in a good environment, so that they grow healthily, and you don't get all of these pests like spider mite in here. But yes, you are definitely right, Brian. You do need to keep some moisture in, and obviously watering the ground, and with the heat that you get from the day, obviously you're constantly getting humidity, and also the plants will give off a little bit of humidity as well. But yes, you are right. You don't want a greenhouse which is completely dry, otherwise you will get these other problems as well. And the final comment comes from Tina at Allotment Upcycling, and she was saying about cucumbers, and I'm sorry I didn't get back to you before, Tina. I thought I'd written you a response, but I haven't. Basically, if you're getting cucumbers forming on the plant and then drying off, what it's down to is watering. Now, with cucumbers are funny plants. Basically, what you need to do is if you water too often or too much, what you can get is the cucumbers not forming properly, and you can also get rotting off at the bottom and stuff like that. That's one side of it. If you don't water enough, what the plant will do is reject its fruits, basically. So what it'll do is they'll dry up and they won't form properly, and they'll sort of drop off. So again, coming back to what Brian Hubry said, again, it's a balancing act. You need to water them enough, not too much, not too little. So what I suggest with cucumbers is most certainly water them every day. Water around the plant, not exactly on the plant, because that's when you get the bottom rotting off. So what you need to do is not water actually where the plant's coming out of the ground. What you need to do is water around it. So the sort of 2 inches or 5 centimetres of ground around the plant is dry. But what you need to do is always make sure you put plenty of water on there, and that depends on how many cucumbers it supports at a time. So some of these plants I've got in here have actually got 5 or 6 cucumbers on, or they're growing. They're from something like the size of my finger. I don't think you can see that one. Yeah, you can just about. So that's one forming there. There's another one here, as you can see, which is a bit bigger. It's a bit curly-whirly at the minute, but there's one there, and there's also 4 others down there. So this plant's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cucumbers on there. So you need to give it a reasonable amount of water, because it needs to be supporting all of these cucumbers, but not too much so it gets so the ground's constantly sodden. So it depends what soil you've got on the ground as well. But what I would suggest you do is water your cucumbers, give them a really good watering. If the ground feels still moist the following day when you come to water at night, just give them a bit. If it feels dry, give them the same amount again. I'm not quite sure how you're doing your cucumbers. There's 2 ways to do cucumbers. You can grow them in a pot and water them from the bottom, where you've got a tray of water at the bottom. That's most certainly the easiest way of doing it. Or you can grow them the way I have, where you've got they're planted directly into the borders in the greenhouse, and I'm just watering them at the same time as the tomatoes. So if you're growing them in a pot, just make sure that the tray at the bottom's always got about 1 inch of water in it. If you're watering them and you're still getting the problem, what you can do is put a bit of water on top of the plant as well, because the way the water goes through the pot is capillary action, which means it draws the water through the ground. And it's possible that with this warm weather that we've had, that the actual compost has dried out and it's not pulling the water through properly. So by putting some water on at the top, you'll restart the capillary action, and you'll get the water all the way through the pot. So it may be a case you need to water it again at the top. If you've got them in the ground and you've had really hot weather like we have, you're down in Essex, so your weather's probably slightly hotter than ours. You may need to water them twice a day if you've got them in the ground, and the ground's not holding the moisture quite as much as you'd like it to. So what you can do is mulch the ground, which will keep the moisture in the ground to last a bit longer, or water them a couple of times a day, and that should help them doing it. Because you've got only female plants, all of your fruits are inert anyway. So I don't think it's a pollinate. Well, I'm sure it's not a pollination thing, because you've got no flowers on there anyway. Well, you have got a flower, but they never actually pollinate. So I'm pretty sure it won't be a pollination problem or anything like that. It's 99% sure. I'm 99% sure it's a watering problem. So you're either watering them too much or not enough or not regular enough. So they may have dried out, and when they've dried out, that's when the fruits have dropped off. I hope that's useful to you, and please do put any further comments you've got further down. I'll always come back to you. And that's all the comments for this session. Okay, so as you can see, I've tied the raspberries back onto the canes now. Now I've got the fruits off that formed from last year's growth. They've obviously all died off now. Now these are the new shoots that have grown this year, and so the raspberries are coming through on them now. So what I can do is obviously tie the new shoots back into the framework, and so I can actually get up and down here. Now, because I can get up and down here now, I can have a look at these Espalier trees and bushes that I've got down here. So what I'm going to do now is just explain to you what to do at this time of year, just to trim them up and basically get them back into shape, because obviously these have been let to grow, and I've left them this year up until this point just to let them establish the roots. I didn't want to take too many leaves off or anything like that, or train them too much, but what I am going to do now is tie back the branches into the frame as they should be, and cut back any that are not in the right place, etc. Now it's the right time of year to do it now, because if you cut down any fruit trees or any tree at all at this time of the year, what you will do is encourage the plant to grow slowly and strongly. However, if you do cut it at the end of the year, when the plant started to become dormant, or even in the spring, what it will do is it'll promote rapid growth, and then what happens is all of the trees and stuff and bushes will grow. Will focus their energy on actually growing the branches and the structure of the plant itself, and they won't grow any fruit. So fruit trees and fruit bushes and stuff like that, now is the right time to sort of trim them back and to take out any growth that you don't need. So what I'll start with is this middle cherry tree. So what I'm going to do is tie this one into the framework, tie this down into the framework as well, whilst it's still nice and supple wood, and then any that are clearly not in the right place, like this one for example, I'm going to cut out. So I'll just mount the camera up and I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so this is the top structure of the cherry tree. So this branch here, as you can see, that basically needs to be following this line here. So what I want is effectively one branch going along here, then this branch going along here, then hopefully one down here as well, and so on going down that you can't see. But the first thing what I need to do, as you can see, that's tied in there, and that cable tie there is getting a little bit tight. So the first thing to do with a pair of secateurs or cable cutters is just take out that cable tie, because that's starting to pinch on the actual branch there. I don't know if you can see that, but there's like a bit of a pinch in there. So what I want to do now is just check any others. That one's still quite loose, so that's going to be okay. So what I need to do now is tie down that branch, and I'm going to do that about 8 inches or so away from there. And I want to do it, this is just some normal garden nylon twine, and what I'm going to do is wrap that round a couple of times, and I'm not going to tie it too tightly, because what I want is to train the branches along, but what I don't want to do is sort of tight too tight, so that can still move about, and that's nice and loose on the actual branch there. But so that the branch can move around, and that's not too bad. Now I don't really need to tie the rest of that. All I'm trying to do is to stop it from bending up at that point there. Now this branch here again, I've got a cable tie there where I tied it last year. Now that's still nice and loose. I'll just move the camera down slightly. That's still nice and loose there, so that's okay as it is. But what I want to do is just tie this branch in. Now if I tie that bit down there, it's going to push that bit down there, so what I'm going to do is tight there and tight there to keep it nice and straight. So again, just with another couple of pieces of string. What you might want to do is remove a few leaves, but if you can leave the leaves on, that's going to be better. What I'm going to do is wrap the string round the cable, and the actual tree itself a couple of times so that the string doesn't cut into it. Make sure you've arranged the leaves so they sit comfortably after the string's in place. And then I'm just going to do a double reef knot in there. Again, it doesn't have to be too tight. You know, you need to have some movement in there so it's not sort of strangling the plant. And then to bring this piece down here, what I'm going to do is tie it about there. So about sort of 4-5 inches along, like that. Again, I've twisted the cable, the string around the cable 3 times and the tree. So that's again nice and loose, but it's holding the branch in place. What you could do is put another one a bit further along there, but that's going to hold that in place and it'll hold it straight. Now, going back to this top one now, let's move the camera back up. As you can see, I've got this branch here, which is coming off, and that's most certainly in the wrong place. So what I want to do is leave that as a just a little stub. What I want to do is, as you can see, I've got one leaf coming out there and one leaf coming out here, so I'm going to leave 2 leaves on there and then just nick that off at an angle, like that. So the reason I've done it at an angle is if it rains, the water isn't going to sit on it, it'll just roll off. So that's basically a branch that's not needed. And then moving this way a little bit, this branch here, I don't think that's going to bend round. I don't think it will. Actually, yes, I think that will. So I might just move the camera slightly this way. This branch here is most certainly in the wrong place. So I'm going to take that right the way back to the actual stump of the tree. Now this next branch, what I'm going to do is, I don't know if you can see this clearly, this branch here, what I'm going to do is bring this back onto the wire so it grows in the opposite direction. Now I'm bending this quite a lot, so I don't want to damage the branch, so what I'm going to do is tie that sort of loosely. Now I'm holding it with the one hand whilst I'm tying it with the other, like that. And what I can do is, because this is green wood, this is grown this year, it's still quite bendy. So you know, you can actually train it into position like that. Now what I need is another piece of string here, just to secure that, so I know it doesn't go sort of off at an angle. So what I'm going to do is here, around 6 inches away from the first piece of string. This again doesn't need to be too tight. I'm going to wrap that around 4 times. Is just tie that off like that. Okay, so that's the branch growing this way. There's not one here at the moment. This one possibly here will do that. Or there's one possibly that may grow from there. So there's not one growing along here at the moment. So I've got one growing across the top this way, one growing across the top that way. So these two branches that I've got left in the middle here are effectively surface to requirement. So what I'm going to do again is 2 leaves and then cut stuff at an angle, and this one here, 2 leaves and cut stuff at an angle like that. Now the reason I'm leaving a little stump in here is the fruit will form on that next year. You don't want to cut that off all the way down to the into the stalk. So that's now, as you can see, now following the structure and is a lot better shaped. Hopefully we'll get a branch going this way, probably next year now. Now moving down here, I'm going to do exactly the same things I've done at the top. So what I'll do is I'll just finish that off and I'll show you what it looks like in a moment. Okay, so if you've seen the top bits, that's all sort of tied in there. So I've got one going that way and one going that way. This side, we've tied this one back in. This one here had actually died off, so what I've done is I've taken one of the side shoots from there and that's now grown along. This one here I've pulled back, and because it's green wood, obviously it'll pull back. Ideally I would have had one coming out the side, but it just so happens to have grown that way, so but that'll be okay, that'll pull round and that'll grow that way. This one, again, I've taken off the side shoots here and here and here, and that's grown all the way along to the side there. This one's actually died off, so I could actually take that off, but I'm hoping another one will grow here. And just finally, I've got this one here, which I'm going to tie in, which I've actually realised I've just missed. So that's going to be tied into there. and that's the cherry tree finished. Now what I'm going to do now is move on to the Raspberry brushes, and I'll show you how to trim them back and get them to grow as you want them as well. Okay, so with the Raspberry brushes, all I need to do is this one is the sort of the main stalk, so I'm going to tie that in. I've tied the string on the wire so it stays, so that's nice and tight. So all I'm going to do now is just wrap that round the stalk like that, and then tie it in reasonably tight, not too tight, just hold that. Now the rest of it is pretty much, so I want to stop that there so it will encourage these side shoots to go sideways, so I'm going to take that out at the top like that. I've just left a couple of leaves after that, and all of these shoots that are coming from the side here, that's not close enough to one of the wires to sort of train that in, so I'm just going to take that back again to 2 leaves, and then it's pretty much the rest of it is pretty much trimming it down to encourage this short side shoot here to grow. So if I just move the camera down, as you can see, this bottom bit here, these are all the side shoots. So all I'm going to do is take all of these back to 2 leaves like that, go all the way along to 2 or 3 leaves, because these are the bits that basically are not grown. Now this one here, I want that to stop there because obviously the cherry tree is going to grow to along to here, so I'm just going to take that out as well. And then all of these I'm basically just going to cut back to 2 leaves like that. So I know I'm taking quite a lot off, but if you want it to be trained to this shape, you need to be reasonably brutal with it. Just going to take that off to there. That's it. So as you can see now, that's got its shape back, and the fruit will be coming off these next year. I'm just going to do exactly the same on the other side, and I'll show you that when it's finished. Okay, so as you can see, I've cut all of the stumps off, the shoots off, sorry, and I've taken it to kind of halfway between the tree and the bush, which is where it's going to stay. Basically stop there, so I want this now to bush out. And as you can see, I've done the same along the bottom here. I've cut them off to 2 leaves long, 2 or 3 leaves long. And then with the apple tree in exactly the same way, I've pulled these across the top. I've taken the top out, so I get all of the energy going into these side branches. Now I know it seems sort of brutal to cut the branches off like this, but what you're doing is you're encouraging the plant to grow where you want it to grow. As in, you know, rather than it using all its energy to send shoots out from the side branches, what it's doing is it's going to send the energy up here, and it's going to grow at the top here, which is obviously where you want it to grow. Likewise with the trees, you know, by cutting out these side branches and stuff like that, what you're actually doing is you're encouraging the tree to grow more side shoots, and it will sort of grow more side shoots in a different place to see where it can grow. So you are actually training it to do exactly what you want. And exactly the same thing with the pear tree. As you can see, that's now sort of grown long. That's all been tied in, and these side branches here, that's not quite long enough to bend down yet, but that's been taken down. The top's been taken out of there, and that's been tied along this way and tied along that way. So that's the Espalier trees done for now. Obviously I've got the birdhouse gourd plants growing amongst them at the moment, so I've just sort of tied a few of these in a little bit to try and tidy them up, but that's the Espalier trees done for the summer. Okay, so just want to give you a quick update on the tomatoes, and I have found one of these. Now this is basically like a black spot that you get on the bottom of the tomato, and there's a number of causes of this, but it's typically down to irregular watering. Now what I have been doing is, because the weather's been a little bit funny over the last few days, you know, it's been wet and dry, it's been really hot and then it's gone cool again. What I've actually been doing is not watering them so much every night, but what this has done is I've had this one tomato now. The actual tomato came off this fruit truss here, and the rest of the tomatoes, as you can see, are perfectly okay, so there's only one on there. But what I have found with the tomatoes, some of the trusses have got so heavy now that they've actually kind of bent over, which isn't brilliant. But as you can see, this one here, the sheer weight of the fruit on there, and this one here in particular, this one's got some really nice big tomatoes on. That one there's a good size, so there's a reasonable amount of weight on it. Again, this is one that's got a branch on the end, so I'll just pinch that out. But I have seen a number of the fruit trusses that have sort of bent over. See, this one here is also bent over. This one here is almost bending over, and it's down to the weight of the fruit on the branches. Now, I haven't found any other tomatoes with this black spot problem, but as you can see, all of these are perfectly healthy, and there's no problems there. But I have had one other problem, and this tomato plant here, as you can see, it's not looking very happy with itself. It's actually damped off at the bottom now. As you can see there, there's basically the shoot at the bottom. Just get this leaf out of the way. That's basically just rotted off at the bottom. So the only thing to do really is to take that plant out, and that's down to the ground being too wet. And this is caused by basically the changes in weather. I've obviously watered the tomatoes, and all the other plants around it are perfectly healthy. There's no problems at all. And as you can see, they're nice and healthy. But that one in the middle there is kind of damped off, and the bottom of the main stem's rotted. So what you can do, there's nothing wrong with the tomatoes, they will ripen, so the best thing you can do is just cut off the fruit trusses, put them on the window ledge to ripen, but discard the rest of the plant, because obviously fungal problems may form on these leaves. So the best thing to do, and I've shown you, is just to take off the fruit off the plant, leave that upside down to ripen in a nice sunny position, and then remove the plant out of the way so it doesn't cause any problems for the rest. But that's what the tomatoes look like at the moment. So I hope this episode has been of some use to you. Please don't hesitate to put any comments or questions you got below, and I'll see you on the next episode of Jim's Garden.